Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show Network. I am joined by my two incredible friends, Kyle and Mike. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Oh,
what's up?
hold on.
Yeah. Ready to break out the jam, guys? You ready to break out the jam? Here we go.
Damn it.
Oh boy, yeah.
We're
Jam it
we're
up.
we're, we're jamming today, y'all, as the title of this podcast suggests, alludes to, however you want to say it. We're talking about the most recent release from none other than alternative rock grunge masters themselves, I guess you could say, Pearl Jam. Their most recent record came out the same day as Taylor Swift, so we didn't have time to get to it that week. But today we're going to break down and discuss, excuse me, Dark Matter, which came out the same day, April 19th, as Taylor Swift. I'm going to go first on this one. Just going to share a couple quick thoughts on Pearl Jam as a band, really quick, and then go into my track listing and all that stuff in a second. But Pearl Jam, it's funny. They're one of those bands, to me at least, that I got into them later in life as time went on. For my love of rock music has primarily been like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s of rock and roll, just for everything from Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley up until really up until like Guns N' Roses and ultimately hair metal of the 80s and everything in between, everything and anything in between. Um, Getting into grunge later in life, like I mean, I knew Guitar Hero. I'm dating myself, but Guitar Hero had like Even Flow on it and Alive and a couple other songs on there. So I got into that pretty quick, and I got into them over time. They're a band that has been around since the late '80s, like '89 or '90, if I'm not mistaken, um, or '88 to be exact. Now that I think about it, and I've always enjoyed their hits, but as an album, as a band with albums, it's been difficult for me to break into them as a whole catalog. So if I'm not going to torture my friends here and say let's do a Pearl Jam career discography breakdown, they would murder me. We're not going to do that. Maybe one day, but probably not. But I would call myself a fan of them. I want to go see them live. Kyle's like, no way, absolutely not. um, but no, but I mean, outside of like 10 being a masterpiece and and several things off of Versus and Vitalogy and other hits that had along the way, like Given to Fly, Just Breathe, or The Fixer, Riot Act. There's a couple of really good songs that I like by them, like Who You Are, Worldwide Suicide. There's just some other hits I like by them. So they've always been a hits band for me compared to an album band outside of 10 and Versus and Vitalogy. Those three albums are phenomenal in my opinion. But coming off of Gigaton, which was their 2020 album, that came out literally about 4 years ago in April of 2020. That album was very, very like quiet, I guess you could say. That album was very different sounding from this record. This was a much more what I would expect from Pearl Jam. This is what I wanted from Pearl Jam, sounding at least in 2024. But let me get right into it, shall we? With Pearl Jam's track listing here. As you know, we do this show. We talk about each song one by one. I'm not going to go too much into it, but here we go. So, Scared of Fear, kicking off the record. When I first heard it, I was like, I'm a little bit nervous. Because, I mean, I knew Dark Matter, the singles Dark Matter, I knew the single Running. But the rest of the album, I didn't listen to it until, we said we were going to do this. Scared of Fear, this one's about a 7 out of 10 for me. It's nothing too special, it's nothing too crazy. And then it did, but it set up the record in a good way that I felt, in a good way that I felt was appropriate. And then the record picked up steam. It has a couple hills and valleys, but it picked up steam pretty quick for me on this one. React, Respond. I'm sitting again about a 7 out of 10 here. 7 out of 10 here. Nothing too crazy. Just I don't want to repeat myself too much, but it's hard to understand Eddie Vedder's vocals to a good chunk of these songs. But I've always felt that Pearl Jam was a band that you wanted to hear them play compared to his singing. On some songs, you do want to hear him. I want to hear him sing, like on Daughter, on Better Man. I do want to hear his voice. Where his voice it's a turnoff for some people. For me personally, I can tolerate. I'm one of the people who I can objectively say that I think Eddie Vedder is a very talented singer. And there's gonna be someone here that's gonna say absolutely not. But we'll see what happens in a little bit. Um, Wreckage. 8.5 out of 10 for Wreckage. This Wreckage reminded me so much of Daughter from their Versus album back in 1993. It just sounds quite a bit like that one. As you can tell, I'm so excited to talk about Pearl Jam. This is a really great song. I really like the guitar work on it. I really like the way that like it sounds like a little nostalgic. Like, hey, we're still keeping it fresh, still keeping it new. We can sound like we did back in the early 90s when we first debuted. Record 8.5 out of 10 for me. Dark Matter, no surprise here. This is a 10 out of 10 copy. You knew it was coming. And when I first heard it, though, I had to let it grow on me quite a bit, though. I had to let it grow on me because when they first released the single, the title track as a single, I'm like, all right, you have my attention. You have my attention here. But this title track had to grow on me a little bit more. It took a little bit more time than you might think. It's not just like, oh, I heard it and I love it. It was not like that. I didn't have that experience with this song. But this song, it did grow on me quite a bit. It does hit hard. It's a much more harder sounding record overall for them, compared to like stuff like Given to Fly back in like their late 90s, or even like Worldwide Suicide from 2006, off the Avocado album. But this is just a great hard hitting track. The one I love, Mike McCready's work on it. I love I've always loved their riff work on their records. I've always loved their riffs in general. But yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. And then Won't Tell, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I got like a weird U2 guitar riff vibe on this one a little bit. Towards the end there a little bit. There was like some sort of like playing. I'm not sure the exact terminology here, but it's like the way that Mike McCready or Stone Gossard was playing guitar for this record. I got a weird U2 vibe from it. And no, that's no diss to them whatsoever. Because to my knowledge, U2 and Pearl Jam are very good friends. They've known each other a long time. And actually, if you live in North America and have U2X radio, U2 plays Pearl Jam on there like all the time. It's crazy. And Eddie Vedder has stuck snippets of U2 songs into their songs. Like Better Man will lead into, no, not Better Man. They'll play like a part of Bad. They'll play a part of a sort of Homecoming. So the two bands know each other well. In fact, those who don't know this, I don't know if you guys knew this, but in 2006 they actually did a co-headlining concert to end apartheid somewhere, and it was called U Jam. The two bands were playing together. It's kind of cool. So I got U2 vibes from like the Won't Tell someone. So I'm sitting at like about a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10 for Won't Tell, just because I like that sound. I like that style of guitar, and Stone Gossard and Mike McCready's guitar would really just worked for this track in particular. That's me. We take a little bit of a dip here with Upper Hand. It is a long song at 5 minutes and 57 seconds, but it feels long at first, and then it kind of picks up a little bit. For me at least. I actually enjoyed this track quite a bit though. I'm saying about a 6.5, could go up to a 7 out of 10. It's not bad. It just takes a little bit of a dip compared to Dark Matter, and Won't Tell for me personally. Waiting for Stevie, track number 7. Not a bad track. It's one of those longer tracks on the record. It's kind of in the sandwiched in the middle of the record, but it's nonetheless it's a very good track overall. I'm saying like a 6.5, push it, maybe not a 7, but I'm definitely a 6.5 out of 10 though for this one though. Running, damn boy, this is a 10 out of 10. I freaking love Running. The moment I heard, I'm like, that's a great song. It really shows to me how Pearl Jam can definitely step up there, even after over 30, maybe even pushing almost 40 years of their existence. They could put out a 2-minute 19 track that almost sounds like Ramones length song, but like just a hard driving track. There, it almost sounds like the Cheap Trick or like the Clash, kind of like just like a fast paced song, but it's just a hard hitting, fast, amazing track. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I love that single Running that came out. It was just fantastic to me. And then the rest of the record kind of falls into place here. Nothing, something special. Not gonna lie, it's not that special to me. It is something special, but it's not that special to me. This one actually, I'm sitting at like I saw a 7 out of 10. It's good, but it's not great. I do like how Eddie Vedder's vocals are a lot more clear on this one. When you listen to the record on Spotify, you can actually hear his voice a lot more clear for the record. Again, nothing too crazy. Just your standard Pearl Jam song, sitting out about a 7 out of 10. Like I said, Got to Give and Sun City. I'm gonna kind of cluster together for a second. These are both sitting about like a 7.5 each out of 10. For Got to Give and Setting Sun. Again, nothing too crazy here. It's just kind of just your standard Pearl Jam songs. And I've always loved when they write songs, their titles are not like super long. Like when they wrote like Sirens or Lightning Bolt, those are just like standard tracks. Their titling for songs are not like It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine, or like Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding. It's not like long titles, and I love those types of songs with long titles, like Elton John's got them, whatever. But I like short title songs with fast. I mean, that's why I like the Ramones so much too. I mean, they have like 7-Eleven or Blitzkrieg Bop. It's got that kind of like feel to it. I do like that quite a bit. But overall, for Dark Matter for by Pearl Jam, it's funny. As I will say though, this is a step up for them from Gigaton, which was when I first heard it, I was like, really, this is Pearl Jam? I was like shocked because the two hit singles from Pearl Jam's Gigaton were Super Blood Wolf Moon. Say that 5 times fast, and what's the other one? Dance of the Clairvoyance. I remember Kyle and I talked about that when it first came out. Like that single came out, and we were like, it's your standard. It's unique on its own because it features a keyboard in it, and that was different from them at the time. Which it was a pretty standout track on their Gigaton World Tour in 2022 and 2023. But nonetheless, I think Pro Jam is back. I think they realized the not the mistake they made with Gigaton, but they realized, hey, we gotta break it down here. We gotta rock hard, and they delivered what, in my eyes, is a really solid record overall. I'm saying about a 7.75 out of 10 on this one. Nothing too crazy, nothing too special. It is something special though, in my opinion. Yeah, 7.75 out of 10 for Pro Jams. Dark Matter. Just a really good, in my eyes, very good record, just a good sounding record overall. Pearl Jam has already announced tour dates before the album came out, so that kind of gave an indication of where it's going to go. I am going to try and see them at some point. You heard it here first. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Kyle, you love Pearl Jam.
Oh yeah, you know it. You know me, biggest Pearl Jam fan.
He
Uh,
bleeds Eddie Vedder.
yeah, I love Eddie Vedder. But no, in all seriousness, Eddie Vedder, I will agree. No matter anyone that's talked to me, probably gonna be surprised by the statement. I appreciate Eddie Vedder as a vocalist. I think he's a very talented vocalist. He's not a vocalist that I generally like to listen to, though. Uh, Especially on a lot of songs where it's hard to make out what he's saying. So I mean, me and Pearl Jam, I like 10. 10's a fantastic album. Outside of that, there's a song here and there, but no other full albums have ever like really grabbed me and kept my attention at all. But I mean, iconic band. Grunge, not really my thing. Outside of Nirvana, I've never been into the grunge scene all that much. So I mean, going into this, I was kind of trying to go in with an open mind, knowing that I probably wasn't going to be the biggest fan of this. And little spoiler here, JT, I can't disagree with you more. This let me down more than I thought it was going to be honest.
No.
So we
Shocker.
start with Scared of Fear, which this one actually kind of came out of the gate surprising me, being one of the better songs on the record, going all the way up to like a 6 for me, which for Pearl Jam outside of 10 and some select songs is pretty good. Really surprising though on this one is that it doesn't feel like Pearl Jam. It feels more like a modern like a modern take on like the 70s like Zeppelin sound. Uh done interesting, done interestingly like well, but nothing too special there. Then you go to React Respond, and here I was like, oh, all my hope for this album that first track had was instantly dashed. This again to me does not sound like Pearl Jam. This sounds like someone came up to Eddie Vedder and was like, "Hey, you guys should try to write a Red Hot Chili Peppers song and see what happens." And they took like the worst parts of both, smashed them into a song together, and we're like, "All right, here you go. We shit it out for you." So Eddie Vedder he's like trying to be theatrical, like especially to like the middle of the end of the song, trying to be like theatrical with his vocals here. And it was like laughable. I was saying about Eddie Vedder trying to be like a theatrical singer that does not work. The only thing on this, I almost gave this a 1, but the only thing that brought it up to a 2 for me is it has a really cool guitar solo. The guitar
Brought
work
it up to a
throughout this
two.
whole, yeah, brought it up to a 2.
Oh my god.
The
Wow.
only saving grace of a lot of this album for me, the guitar work, which is really good throughout. This has a good guitar solo on it, but I had to get through so much to get to it. So much stuff I didn't like. And then Wreckage, probably the most classic Pearl Jam sound on the album up to this point, at least. Uh, it's too long for me. It gets repetitive. They use that chorus too much. Really, probably could have cut like a minute and a half off of there, and it would have been the same, if not better. And then JT, me and you have a similar number on this one, except get rid of the 0 off the end from
Oh
your
no.
score.
What was your
Uh,
record score?
Wreckage of 4.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, yeah. So
Classic Pearl Jam song. Yeah, that's
I
really
don't think we've had
four.
anyone on this channel. I need people to go back through all of our reviews, all 90, whatever we're at now. And I need someone to see if this is the biggest discrepancy we've ever had on a song. Because this is a one for me. I absolutely hated this song. This is the first song I heard before
Oh.
listening to the album, before we even decided to do this one. I heard this and I was like, this is the title track. This is what they're, I think it's the lead single too. I was
Yep.
like, this is what we're releasing to the world here. It's like trying to be heavy, but it's striking this weird balance where it's not heavy enough for what they're trying to do. It's still like this weird middle ground between grunge and almost like metal that doesn't really work. This might honestly be my least favorite Pearl Jam song I've ever heard. I really don't like this one. There's a, again, nice guitar solo in it, but the amount that I have to get through to get to that one slightly enjoyable part, not not enough to not enough to reward that one at all. And then it does get better from there. That is my least favorite on the album, if you couldn't tell. Then Won't Tell. I mean, this is it's a five. It's nothing special. It's nothing I would turn off. It's just kind of a background tune. It is what it is. Upper Hand, way too long. It did not need that atmospheric intro for the first whatever it was. I think it was like a minute, maybe even longer. Didn't add anything to the album having that there. Maybe could have been a separate track that you could just skip over so you don't have to like slide through the intro to get to the song. Otherwise, pretty boring. I give this one a four. Eddie Vedder does some like weird vocal riffage on here that just I'm not into it. Again, the dude's a technically proficient singer. I just don't want to hear Eddie Vedder doing his like yarling vocal riffs for a lot of the song. Uh, Waiting for Stevie. Really don't like the vocals on this one. This is vocally my least favorite on the record. Uh, Way too long. The instruments I didn't really feel did anything interesting on this one. Didn't like this. Straight two on this. And then I'll agree with JT on this one. Not going all the way to a 10. This is the one song on the album, the only one that I think I actually would save into a playlist and go back and listen to. Running has this cool punk feel to it that, I'm not a Pearl Jam historian or anything. Something that I've never heard from the band and actually felt fresh enough to me. And I thought that on a song like this, Eddie Vedder's vocals actually kind of work. And I actually thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was a 7 out of 10 for me. Really stands out on the album and in a lot of their catalog. One of my favorite things they've done since, God, probably the 90s. Something special. I mean, nothing too special here. There's another five for me. This is kind of like another little acoustic driven like little jam here. Background music. Could see this one being on like listening to it like at the beach or something like that, just having it on the background. Then Got to Give. This is one of the top three of the album for me. This is a 6 out of 10. Uh, it takes a little bit to get to the part that I enjoy, but like especially toward the end, there's like this cool like jam thing going on with like a little piano in there, and thought that was pretty well done. Not my general like style to go back to, but 6 out of 10. Nice song. And then Setting Sun. It's about time at this point that the sun set on this record. This was a boring, extended way to end this album. Really could have just ended it on Got to Give, and I think it would have done a much better job. The album with this kind of just goes out on a whimper. I mean, this is a straight three. This is just almost nearly 6 minutes of just boring. Nothing interesting here. Back in the 90s, and even maybe a little bit after that too, Pearl Jam had a talent for being able to do slower songs and having them be a little bit interesting. That was not on display here, not with Setting Sun anyway. So, I mean, for me, this album comes to a four, which, hey, if you're a Pearl Jam fan like JT, I don't know about Mike yet, but if you're a Pearl Jam fan, you'll probably enjoy this. If you're someone that is not a Pearl Jam fan like myself, this isn't going to win you over. It's not going to win over any new fans. It's just going to be there for the fans, which at this point in their career, let's be honest, they're mostly a legacy act at this point. That's fine. They're at that point in their career where they don't need to prove themselves. It is what it is. It's a 4 for me. Wouldn't go back to it.
Mike, is there any redeeming hope for Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam?
Well, yeah, I mean, my relationship with Pearl Jam is similar to your guys, at least, like what you were saying about being into the hits. I've always just kind of known their hit songs. I know Eddie Vedder did the soundtrack to Into the Wild, which I love that movie, and great soundtrack. I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't listened to, or hasn't watched that movie, or during the movie you'll hear some of the songs. And I do enjoy Eddie Vedder's style of, vocals. It's interesting. I found his vocals more rich in previous releases. I mean, obviously he's getting up there, and he's not exactly crisp or at his highest level of output, in my opinion. With this album, I found a lot of the vocals on this were strained at times. It felt like just that certain kind of richness and depth wasn't there. It felt like he was trying something different, uh, and it wasn't able to be achieved. So yeah, that's kind of that was just kind of like a lasting note that I kind of noticed through a couple of these songs. Start off with Scared of Fear. Yeah, you get a little bit of a more harder kind of song, a little bit more, I wouldn't say harder, but I would say like it's got this upbeat, kind of faster feel to it. The guitars feel kind of muddy. Would say they're punk like, but I would say they're on order of like, like kind of like the Clash, or like something like the Ramones, or something in that realm. The drums feel a little weak to me, not very front and center, which are kind of like drums do good work throughout this album, but they're just not able to really drive the song and make it as punchy as I wanted it to be for this song. Not a bad song though, and it's actually a pretty good start. I like the chorus is kind of catchy, and it's kind of got this weird. It's kind of got a dark feel to it, which just kind of goes along with the dark matter. Which I'm not sure if he's saying dark matter as in like it's a matter that is like of a dark nature, like a kind of a dark and sad nature, or if he's speaking about like matter, dark matter, like space, whatever, dark. I don't know what he would be talking about, but yeah, 6 out of 10 for me on this one. It's pretty like I could probably shift to a 7 after more listens. But I just went with a 6 here just because like it just didn't punch as much as I wanted to. And then we get to react respond. I completely 100% agree with Kyle on this one. Those vocals after the initial and intro of those guitars, like it kind of reminds me of Queens of the Stone Age with like some of the guitar work, like like I said, like the Clash, or like one of these kinds of these rock outfits that kind of came in through that sound. And it starts off decent, then it gets to that chorus with a yeah, respond, yeah, respond, and uh, I was listening to the living room, and I was just like said out loud, I was just like, man, this guy is doing some theatrics on his vocals, and it's so unlike the theatrics of the past, like the Whale. I love the Eddie Vedder Whale, and I didn't hear any of that in it. I heard like this weird ending he's putting on his vocals. It just sounded unnatural. And it was a song of this simple part, like the beginning, middle, and end are okay, but this like throughout this song, I just didn't want to listen to it because of those vocals and because of that part. So I just gave it a 4 out of 10, to be honest with you. I was just like, it is just not something I want to listen to again. And then we get to Wreckage, feels like Tom Petty is being channeled here. It's got that kind of laid back kind of folky kind of um, you know song. Get more what I would expect from a Pearl Jam song. Uh, here. Chill song, couple moments, good melodic vibes. Overall, nothing doesn't blow my mind, but it was just kind of cool. It's like 6 out of 10 for me. Nothing that I like really like could want to put on a playlist. But if I was listening to it at a concert, I'd have a good time. Uh, not bad. And then we get to Dark Matter. Now, Dark Matter, I do like the effect on the guitar and the punchiness of this. Kind of the punchiness, more the punchiness that I expected from Scared of Fear here. And I like that groovy rhythm in this song. I do like that the riffage, and I do agree to Kyle. And I'm not as against his vocals. They do feel strained again here on that chorus. Comes off a little awkward, but it's not something that's gonna wreck the songs like, uh likelihood of being a song that holds its message and its journey to through the song. It's not gonna lead me away from it. So I gave it a 7 out of 10 for me. Dark Matter, not a bad tune, nothing that's blowing my mind. But then we get to my favorite song on the album, Won't Tell, 8.5. Vocally hits some strange areas that sometimes, once again, and a little exaggerated, but I love the melody of this song. I love the overall flow of it. I like how it returns back to that catchy kind of opening melody. And then, just the chorus does a good job. Overall, this song really made me feel like, writing wise, felt the most intentional to grab you, whether it be emotionally, whether it be your ear, whether it be the use of, just kind of the song's melody to be memorable and to be kind of more like intentional in its effect. So yeah, like I appreciated that. And I was like, wow, like this feels like a song I definitely would add to a playlist, and I most likely will. Then we get to Upper Hand. I disagree with Kyle completely, as always. I do enjoy that opening, melancholy, dark sounding intro. I appreciate that stuff. I feel like music needs more of that kind of stuff in it, because we're at a time where uh our music is being shaved down to 3 minutes, and like saying, oh, quick, get this song over with. Like, no, sometimes you just need to let the moment happen. And I do appreciate it. Could I feel it have done a even better job of that, even adding some more kinds of little melancholy sounds and noises, or some kind of chill, creepy kind of melody? Sure, absolutely. But it did what it did, and then it kind of gets into that melancholy, bluesy feel. Some of those guitars that like kind of sing along with the song, and good chill relaxing vibe at times. I like how the pace joint changes at the end. Some of that acoustic strumming in the background didn't come off as good as I wanted it to. Like, how like some of these artists will do like this acoustic kind of strumming in the background, and I feel like they're building the pace here at the end, and it came off a little hard on the ear. Still solid song. I gave it an 8 out of 10. This was a good run for me. 7, 8.5, and 8 right here from the beginning, where I was kind of like feeling a little about it. 4, 5, and 6 felt good, and I felt like it was like, oh wow, like I'm curious to know what's next, and then kind of just starts to dip. Like Waiting for Stevie, it was okay. It repeats a little too much, vocal passages too often. Didn't really seem to do much for me. Once again, the vocals are strained. At times, I feel almost like he's not able to get to the place he wants, or have like the fortitude. Now, I don't know if that's the way it is, or if they're just not putting any effect on his voice or any kind of studio trick at all. Um, who knows? But it was okay. And then we get to Running. I thought this was a basic punk feel, uh, like the first two songs. It just really didn't bring much else. It was pretty fast and to the point, and that was good. But it was a 6 out of 10. It wasn't horrible. I just wouldn't, listen to it over the other songs. Something Special. I agree with JT on this. It was just kind of, you know, they were a little repetitive again. Nothing special. It was just okay. 6 out of 10 for me. Then he got to give. This was just, this is where I just kind of feel like I'm falling down the cliff here, where I just not much is memorable for me. Got to Give and Setting Sun, all felt kind of like Got to Give was just pretty basic chorus, and I just felt I wanted to hear more of like a heavier offering, and it was just not really there. And then Setting Sun with those weird low vocals that just are feel out of place, and like they're low and then they go back to normal, and then they're low again and they're back to normal. It just kind of repeats that weird kind of back and forth thing, and it felt a little like strange country music, boring, that doesn't really go anywhere. Yeah, it just towards the end of this, it definitely needed to be trimmed down. That Setting Sun, that one didn't really do anything different in the time that it was given or chose to be given. Um, yeah, so overall, like the album wasn't like a complete bust for me, but also I definitely expected more. I wanted it to be more, and I wanted some more like Eddie Vedder moments that remind me of the past. And I think going into this album, that may have jaded some of my feelings towards this different kind of attempt at pulling off different vocals that feel very not like Pearl Jam. So for me, I'm sitting at a 6 out of 10. It could be at a 6.5 on that. I could go no higher than 6.5. It definitely was not a 7 or anything higher than that. Like it's in that realm of like, would I listen to this album again? Probably not. If it was on, would I be disappointed, or like would I be visibly annoyed at the songs? No. But would I like choose it? Probably not. So it's in that realm. Once you get to the 7, it starts to be something like, yeah, I'd listen to it, but like obviously there's better choices over it, and it has more consistency. This was an inconsistent album on a couple different fronts, and that really made it suffer. You had a good middle, a couple moments in the beginning, weak ending, and overall, I wish it was more consistent. I bumped that grade up to a 7, or even a 6.5, I should say.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Any other comments at all for this album? I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
And what are we doing next? Or did we plan
Spinning the
our
wheel.
We're
spin
gonna
the
spin
wheel?
the wheel, right? 1 second. Here you
Spin
go.
the wheel.
Go ahead. So we're spinning the wheel for our next album for next week. We spun the wheel last time and it landed on my pick of Extreme's Porno Graffiti from 1990, which was very we talked about that too. Here we go. Let's spin the wheel. What do you got? And it's going.
Oh,
You don't have to wait till the very end to do all my choices, like every other game.
So for those you're wondering what it landed on, we landed on Mayday Parade's Sunnyland. I believe that's Kyle's pick. So
Yes.
cool.
all right, you heard it here first. That's our next show for next week is going to be the Mayday Parade Sunnyland. That's the album. That's the artist. You heard it here first. Yeah, we want to thank you all for watching, listening, however you enjoy us tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in as always. Very interesting album overall. I mean, we heard different perspectives, and I mean, I'm much more of a bigger fan than obviously Mike or Kyle are in this case. But nonetheless, there were some good takeaway tracks here and there, and hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching, listening, however you enjoy us tonight. Q&A podcast is still kicking, right?
Yep. New episode sometime today. I forgot to post it. Morning. Sometime today.
His episode of Q&A podcast is coming up. Check him out as well, please. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for watching, listening, however you enjoyed us. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube simply at the Super Review Show, and follow us on podcast format with Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. So stay safe, take care, and have a good one.